Welcome, everybody, back to OTT Executive Podcast. Thrilled to have you. I'm Brian Mahoney, your host and the president of the 50,000 member OTT Executive Community and the CEO of Trend Research. I'm thrilled to be joined by Johnny Miles today. Johnny, welcome.
How are you? Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome having you and reconnecting in your new gig. Before we get to that, though, we'd love to start with sort of your career background, learn a little bit about you, and kind of how you got to where you are today. Maybe we can start with that.
Yeah, Johnny Miles. I started off at BT Networks in Washington, D.C. I was under Lewis Carr and in the ad sales division. Started off in traffic, moved into more of an ad sales role there before taking part in a 10-year run over at TV1 under Rory Peters. Um, and now currently SVP over at FEVA TV.
So I was going to ask you about that. What is your current role at FEVA?
Content distribution and partnerships.
Okay, cool. And so tell us about FEVA TV. Like what's your focus?
Right now, focus is global and fast distribution, linear distribution, scaling a company in the US. We're currently distributed all through Canada, currently distributed all through the Caribbean and parts of Africa. And right
Mhm.
now, we're taking the brand into the US. So our focus is to come in with the fast channel where we have three different fast channels.
Mhm.
And we also have our linear channel, FIVA TV.
Awesome. And what's your content strategy? Like what's your library look like and where do you look to be growing in the future?
Library is basically drama, reality, just more on the, I would say focused on the African continents as far as doing like the documentaries, docuseries, things like that. And
Mhm.
also an asset light approach where our VOD is full of a lot of young African American and African content creators, even some out of the Caribbean. So we have lifestyle shows, cooking shows, we have live content, we have gospel, we have a voracious amount of content.
Mhm. And so obviously any content strategy has to match to your audience. Like, can you talk a little bit about viewer acquisition and distribution, the front end and the back end for your content library?
As far as our acquisition,
Yeah.
for the most part, we're vertically integrated.
Hmm.
So we shoot all of our content in Africa. Our CEO is avid when it comes to ensuring that the story is being told in the correct way. He's highly passionate about Africans and African Americans. So what we've noticed is there is a gray space in the marketplace where there is a lot of first generation Africans. So we're trying to really satisfy that household. It's a little bit niche, but we see it growing exponentially, and we've seen that in so many different ways. I mean, at my time at TV1, I think that our focus was the same way when we launched Clio TV, where we wanted to focus on, women of color who weren't necessarily just African American, but more Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Latina. So we're seeing the same thing kind of moving in that regard, when it comes to just first generation African who, obviously are African American. So we're blending that content to where we can satisfy not only the household, head of household, but also the child.
And so as a fast channel, you don't
Mhm.
have to name any specifics, but like how would people find FIVA TV and what is your growth strategy for to find those eyeballs and make your
Mhm.
content available to the audience.
Right now, I'm in talks with everyone. So, probably by the time this is launched, will be launched on Plex TV.
Hmm.
And there are obviously a couple others that will be launching in the month of February as well. We will be doing a lot of network effects with a lot of our talent. So you should see a lot of focus on strategy in regards to social media. You will see us in basically every single marketplace there is when it comes to targeting Africans. um so it's just going to be for me more so just about creating the infrastructure and obviously getting the brand out there in the right way, and speaking on behalf of a lot of the demographics that we serve.
Okay. It's interesting. Before this podcast, we had a conversation about the about social and about the community and about your audience. Maybe talk a little bit about that. Like, how do you, you kind of have to meet the viewer where they are, right? A lot of time it's second screen. They might be on the connected TV, they're on their phone, they're on social. How do you look at that holistically to kind of match the content to where the consumer is and what device they might be using?
For us, I think it's more about meeting our consumer where they are, right? So I take a more of a, and I'll say this, granular approach, right? To
Hmm.
where I look at every single platform, I look at their demo, I look at their UI, and I look at their consumer base, right? And then we sit down and we create a marketing strategy plan that aligns with what their focus is. And then that's when we start to roll out our campaigns. So everything to me is a little bit more individual in regards to how we roll out from a marketing standpoint, because obviously we want to remain efficient, but we also want to remain, in a space where we're actually targeting the right audience, right? So I think right now with the fragment environment, you have
Mm,
to be a little bit more granular and work with your partners, but understanding where they have growth and then doing things that can grow not only your content from a discoverability standpoint, which obviously equals the revenue, but
mhm.
more so, be able to tell the story to their demo and then bring in new, unique viewers
Right.
onto their
'Cause you want to
platform
grow
as
it, right?
well.
You want to grow the audience.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. So you
So
have
are
to not only learn the talent, but then turn around and learn the platform.
mhm,
And then you should execute the plan.
that makes sense. Are you going to be carrying live content on FEVA TV?
Yep, yep. We will be carrying live content. We will be carrying the Caribbean Awards.
Hmm.
And we will be the only fast channel that will have that. So until
Anything unique or
2027.
unique or challenging or maybe opportunities with regard to live content and premieres. A lot of the fast content is kind of repurposed, obviously linear and stuff. So
Mhm.
going that extra mile, in terms of live fresh content is obviously very sticky and helps a lot with engagement.
Yeah, and this is where the asset light business comes in, right? So two things we're doing, right? Obviously, we're targeting, new talent, and I'll be at, NAPTY this year, and I'm not only going as obviously head of distribution here at FEVA to where I'm looking for distribution with our partners, but also going to tap in to a lot of the content creators and who are not, having their voices heard, who are feeling underserved, and providing them a space to where they can live inside our ecosystem, if obviously, if it's on brand and the quality is to where we need it to be. But also from the standpoint of like, we have a cooking show called The Classy Chef, right? Um, and this was a good cooking show by Natasha DeVoe. And she's top Forbes and had a show, that was on Bravo, things of that nature. It was actually number one in the Caribbean. So we're looking
Mm,
to take that show, which is a great lifestyle show, bring it into the US, but also work with her on obviously doing some new content or obviously doing some things in the social space that's going to tie back to that show. Because even though this show was number one in the Caribbean, the US never had a chance to experience it.
mhm,
So, obviously you have a whole new demographic that can tie into this. So it's a really great show. She's, going through all the different parts of, the Caribbean, which is great. And it's really farm to table style.
mhm,
So it's a really good cooking show, which is a little bit more than just seeing someone in the kitchen with celebrities cooking.
mhm.
It's like really getting down, shopping and picking the right fish and things of that nature, and really getting down to nitty gritty, which a lot of people don't have the ability to do, obviously, in the US, unless you live certain places. So that makes it a little bit more of a unique, viewer experience with the content. But we're also going to do something on the social side with her as well to
Okay, so that's a
promote.
great example where you're kind of covering your bases. You have your fast channel, you got social, you've got that fan engagement because she has a big following. And I think
Correct.
you maybe talk about your international strategy a little bit. You kind of, is that your global vision to be able to, capture
Mhm.
and target different markets? Are you going to, how about language? Is everything in English? Are you looking at translations and localization at some point?
Well, definitely. At some point, I'm looking at AI dub, but right now, I
Okay.
think the universal language of just
Mhm.
obviously English is working for us in
Yep.
most of the countries that we're distributed. So yes, because we lean a little bit African, that gives us the opportunity to possibly move into the French space.
Hmm.
And also it gives us the opportunity to target, that diaspora in also those different countries, like,
Yep.
the Germanys and the UKs of the world. So yes, and also obviously Africa, which is a given.
Yeah, of course. So you brought it up, and I got to ask because it's all the buzz
Uh-huh.
these days. AI, right?
Uh-huh.
It's really big. There's a lot of applications for it. I'd love to pick your brain about, where you see the industry going relative to AI, how it might be impacting the media and entertainment industry, and maybe your vision for how you might be able to implement some of those tools at FEVA TV.
Well, I think AI is we're going to be a big beneficiary of all the platforms that we're carried on, right? Because they're going to implement AI, right? And I think it's going to help with algorithms. I think it's going to help with discoverability.
Hmm.
I think AI is going to be a great partner in regards to programming and moving things in real time. I think it's going to help us in regards to targeting from an ad sales standpoint. I think, it's going to give us opportunities to where we can just course correct things right without having to wait for the end result, right? Sometimes when you schedule things, sometimes you have to wait for Nielsen or send us a report to see what that looks like, but we can look at that viewing time, we can look at minutes viewed and things of that nature. So I think for us AI is just going to increase productivity, um, and it's also going to increase not only productivity but revenue because it's going to help with discoverability.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point because AI is a tool, right? You got to be able to
Mhm.
harness it. Are there any downsides in your mind in terms of, I guess first of all, what inning are we in for, AI adoption? Or is the first inning, second inning, like where are we and how do you think things are going to evolve from here?
I think we're in the advanced stages of AI. I think
Okay.
we're right now we're in a large language model that is in a beta stage that is consistently learning the consumer. I think technology is going to take its place, and I think obviously with a lot of the I'll say consolidation that we're seeing in the marketplace.
Mhm.
I think eventually once that is done and things are a little bit more optimized, we'll start to see this part of the business start to grow, right? And obviously it's grown, but I think it will grow into the behemoth that it's initially will be. In that model, which will show its face.
Mhm.
And then once we start to understand what that revenue is and what that total adjustable market looks like, I think that's when you'll see the floodgates open. And so I think it's an opportunity for all brands to open up the door and you know, get involved with the subscriber model that has created the media space for the last what 30, 40 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the promise is there. I mean, I think discoverability and recommendation engines can still be a lot better. So, I mean, hopefully AI can play, a key role there,
Hmm.
add inventory and matching it to the right demographics and content. I mean, I think that's another area. It's not, there's still a level of effort in terms of staying in control of what AI can do. So, I agree with you. I think it's a powerful
Hmm.
tool and we're still really early. The other one of the other big things that came out of some of the recent shows like CES is the creator economy and how that might be impacting the future of media entertainment. Can you talk to that? Do you have a creator economy strategy at FEVA TV, and how is that going to play out?
Yeah, we do, and that's what I was speaking of when I speak of our show, The Classy Chef with Natasha. We're not just airing her show, but we're actually working with her on the social side, right?
Mhm.
And we want to obviously do just different things, different stunts. There's a show I'm on the board of for the Caribbean Cable Association, happening in May, and during lunch we're actually gonna, do a screening, and she's gonna come out, and we're also working on her trying to create a dish, right? So
Mm.
it's things like that that we need to start not just taking to the shows, but actually taking on the road, right? And just finding ways to where we align with her brand and our brand to come together. And I think you'll start to see a lot of that with a lot of brands and a lot of the talent. So right now, I think talent has probably more leverage than they've ever had. And I think the subscriber models are going to benefit them in more ways than they know. So I,
Yeah.
I think that's just a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, for sure. And we're starting to see more and more shows starting on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, and they're getting picked up and for traditional media properties and stuff. So, I expect more of that will happen in the future, right? It just makes so much sense because not only do you get great content, but you got an avid fan base, from the start.
Correct. You got it. Yep. And when you see things like, Delta partnering with YouTube
Hmm.
Premium for their flights and how they ingest a lot of the content that you would see on YouTube with the movies, you start to see all this come together. And I think that's helpful. See, I'm not moving away from that. I think that's great because you want everyone to live in one space. You want to create that ecosystem because that's what we're used to. And I think
Hmm.
once that's solidified, I think then you'll start to see the true growth in the bottom line, right? Because I think you get the growth in the users, but the problem is it's fragmentation, and the
Hmm.
fragmentation is what's hurting the discoverability, right? And that was the benefit in a traditional linear space is that everything was sitting in the same space,
Right.
right? And I mean, just think about it. Like VOD used to be a whole thing to get to. So when you look at the different Tubies of the world, and you look at the Zumos of the world, right? And you look at the Vizios and the Rokus of the world, that's just enhanced VOD.
Hmm.
That's just giving the experience based on in an app versus having to
Right.
come out of something to go into something.
And it's organized for you. Remember the days you had to always hit
Correct.
the input button on your remote control to like
Correct.
switch to some
Correct.
dongle or whatever it might be? So we fixed
Correct.
that, but I think to your point, the fragmentation is still a huge problem. We've got thousands
Hmm.
of fast channels now. I mean, how do you, you put your tile out there and I mean, how do you fix that from a consumer perspective? Is it just like you do such a great job with your marketing, your social, they know where to go for your content and they seek it out.
Hmm.
Maybe talk to that a little bit. How do you see the future evolving?
Well, I think that's where the creators come in. I
Hmm.
think they have the market. I think they have the analytics to prove that they have the reach, right? And their reach is a little bit more unique, if we have to be honest, right? So because our content these days is more performative, that changes the scale. That actually changes all of the dynamics if you really think about it, from a revenue standpoint. Because if it's performative, then you really have to truly market. You
Hmm.
really have to truly be able to touch those eyeballs, and those viewers have to be unique,
Hmm.
right? So you need the creators to come on board. You need them to be involved, and you need them to partner, if I have
Hmm.
to be honest, right? So
Yeah.
there has to be a little bit of skin in the game for them. And this is why I say they have the leverage. But I think it's great because you also have brands that are willing to get into, the business, right?
Hmm.
And obviously they used to partner with the networks. So the networks have to come out the gate and they really have to spend a lot of money and have to market. But I think the creators and the talent probably have the leverage at this point if you already have an audience,
Hmm. Do you
right?
think
And you
that's going
know
to
how to
shift the?
scale it.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that's going to shift the balance more towards unscripted content versus scripted, just because it seems like that's more the sweet spot for creators?
I think both.
Okay.
If I have to, I think both can be true at the same time.
Hmm.
Because I think there is a time where you do want lean back and you really want great content, right? Like I
Hmm.
was just watching HBO Max because I love that show Industry. And it just made me just feel nostalgic, if that's even appropriate here, right? Because it was
Hmm.
like, wow, I'm sitting back and I'm just leaning back and I want to watch this whole series, right?
Hmm.
But then at the same time, I have my iPad and I'm looking at, what new, YouTuber has put out, right? And
Hmm.
I'm seeing them churn out content so much, right? But what I notice is within that space, I only allot a certain amount of time,
Hmm.
right? But when I'm in an HBO Max lean back space, I'm not watching Industry on my iPad. Just it's not
Hmm.
large enough. It's the experience isn't there because the content is at a different quality level. So
Hmm.
I think when you want that lean back, long form content, you're gonna have to have a certain amount of quality. And I
Yeah.
think when you're on the YouTube side, it's a little it's a little different. So I think the Netflix YouTube story is kind of getting a little bit convoluted because those are two different experiences.
Yeah, it's funny. There's been a lot of debate on a lot of the podcasts. I won't mention any names in the top of the year about like, is YouTube TV? Is it really TV? What's your
Mhm.
opinion on that? Like, how do you come out on that?
I think it is TV. from a viewership standpoint today, right?
Mhm.
Because really there is no television, we have screens,
Mhm.
right? And that's it. Who dominates what screen? So I think from a short form screen, YouTube is a winner. I think from a long form perspective, traditional cable and streaming like Netflix's and the rest of the SVOD apps, they hold the multitude of the share right now.
Yeah, and some of it's by demographic too. My kids, like sometimes I watch what they're watching. Like they'll be watching, other people play video games, and I'm like, and they'll do that for hours, it's interesting to them. And I'm like, I'd rather play the video games, So it's just they're different animals and how they engage content. And you're right, for them, the idea of a channel and a brand, it's kind of gone by the wayside. It's just content for them, their favorite shows, and they know better than I do how to find it, right? And how to get
Yep.
that content. So, yeah, it is a very fragmented industry. We're gonna have to figure that out. But I think, like anything, it kind of you get consolidation, you get reaggregation. It's already happening, and it just gets better over time, right?
But I will tell you this, if you have to think about why podcasts are doing so well and they're doing so well on YouTube, it's because if you really think about it, it's live.
Hmm.
I mean, it's live.
So it's
It's
like, what do
all
you mean, like
premiere.
authentic, like kind of
Yeah,
raw?
because for one, it's live. Yeah, it's live. It's not
Yeah,
scripted, as you said, right?
yeah.
But at the same time, um, it's in real time.
Hmm.
So you don't, it's not programmed. It's programmed, but it's not programming,
Hmm.
essentially, right? So, when you want to see your favorite, YouTuber, you subscribe to him and he
Hmm.
talks about something that happened today and
Hmm.
he gives his perspective, that's no different than live content.
That's true. Yeah.
And it's premiere. So you're the
Right, it's
first
like a
person
news
to see
program's
it.
premiere, but you might even go back and look at the library from a week ago or a month ago, and you can catch up and you can binge hours of
Correct.
that content.
Correct.
Yeah, it's
There
true.
you go. Correct. And it could be even based on a certain stock or subject or sport
Hmm.
or person. All of those things matter. But when you get locked into a certain YouTuber, you become a follower of him. And that's where you see a lot of revenue coming in the Patreon. Again, another
Hmm.
subscriber model. So I think everyone and I've been saying this for years. I think if you want to know where television is going, you should just look at the music industry.
Yeah,
That's it. And you
yeah.
had a ton of consolidation, right? And there were times where you had a lot of brands. You had the bad boys and the rough riders and the loud records and MCA records and Uptown
Hmm.
records and Motown records, right? Def Jam records, right? And where's that today? They
Hmm.
still exist, most of them, right? But they're not the face anymore.
Hmm.
Now it's just you either got Apple, you got Spotify,
I
and
was
then
gonna say,
whatever
yeah,
else is left, right? And
yeah. And a
those
lot
are
of people
all
look at
subscriber
Spotify
models.
as like the benchmark for great recommendation, right? So let's learn
Correct.
those lessons.
Correct. And that's what I mean. So that's essentially being on one of Spotify's recommended playlists is probably, I won't say probably, but it's almost as big as being on radio,
Hmm.
you know, and I'm just being honest.
I mean,
So,
especially
you
for my
know,
kids' generation, that I don't think they even listen to the radio anymore. I can't, you know. I'll
so
put the
just think
radio on,
about
like,
it
Dad,
from
what
that
playlist is
standpoint.
this? I'm like, it's the radio.
But it is a playlist.
It's true. Someone else is choosing it for you, right? It's true.
Correct. You know what I'm saying? The only difference is you don't know what's coming up next.
Right. So there's that element of surprise. That's true. That's a good way. I mean, I remember I forget some of the stations, but like they would just play top 40s on a loop all day long. So it was a playlist. You're right about
It
that.
was a
Well,
playlist.
listen, Johnny, we're almost out of time here. One of the things we love to do on this podcast is kind of personalize some of the luminaries of the industry, get to know you about, personal hobby or interest. Anything you can share with our audience?
Well, if anyone knows me, they know I'm an avid tennis lover. I'm a huge Nadal fan. I've been Australian Open, French Open,
Wow, no
US
way.
Open. Yeah, yeah, I've been every single one of them. So I'm a huge tennis guy. A lot of the greats are retiring, so it's kind of hard for me to kind of figure out what I'm gonna do next because the young guys don't really make me want to travel across the world to see them. But the a lot of greats are moving on. And then I took up cycling during COVID. So I got me a nice expensive bicycle and I ride it around DC whenever I get a chance. So those are my two things. And I love to travel as well. Anyone knows me know
Yeah.
I'm a big traveler, so I like to see the world.
So that's super cool. So tennis. So that's interesting because in a tennis
Yeah.
channel, do you still have to subscribe to cable to get the tennis channel? Is that still how it's set up?
Um, No, I have
Okay.
Tennis Plus actually. So
Okay.
I have the app and it's just like NBA League Pass. I pay like a hundred and something dollars and it gets me like everything
It gets you.
because
Okay.
tennis is such a global sport.
Yeah.
You have a lot of ATP 500s and 1000s and things like that that are not on television. So if you want to see
Mm.
the Madrid Open or the Barcelona Open or Brisbane or something like that, you have to really have that because it doesn't just come on and it's not promoted that well.
Right. And
So
you got to
I
go
find that
find it.
out
But if you're a true tennis
exactly.
fan, and it sounds like you are, like you've been to Australia to go see Australia,
Yeah.
that's impressive. That's real fandom right there.
Yeah, that was a bear. I went to the Australian Open in January 2024.
Okay.
Yep. And I went to see Nadal's last match at the French Open.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm lucky. I'm lucky because in tennis you just have to buy a ticket. You don't get to know who's going to play the match. So
Oh, I
it's
didn't know
always
it
the
worked
luck
that
of
way.
the draw. Yeah, yeah. You can't just pick to see Federer. It doesn't work like that. So
That's
sometimes you
like a
could
little
buy
bit
a
like the
finals ticket, but you don't know who's going to be in the
You
final.
know, that is a good point. That's a little, I know a lot of people complain about like the World Cup for soccer because you buy them at, you don't know exactly, what you're buying a ticket for. Well, listen, Johnny, I really, really appreciate your time. It's been a great conversation. I'll be following your career and what's going on with FEVA TV. Sounds really exciting. And yeah,
Mhm.
thanks for your time today.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
Awesome. Well, listen, everybody, this is Brian Mahoney once again signing off, OTT Executive Podcast. Everybody have a great day. Thank you.